Greetings, gentlemen. This is going to be a video response to Sandman's unlisted video, Stardusk and MGTOW Man Caves, where he specifically talks about me and, in fact, outright lies about me. Let me first say that this is an unlisted video. There's a very high probability that he might take it down. We can all speculate as to why it's unlisted. I'm not going to do that here, but I did have the audio downloaded so I can respond to the points he's making. And I think it's also necessary, as I said, because he lies and implies certain things that are simply not true in this video. So we'll go through the video. I'm not so much interested in his points about man caves as I am about him talking about me. But as I said, I will be providing a link to this video, but there's a distinct possibility that Sandman will take this video down. Fear not, the audio is here for the listening, and I will respond to the points as they occur.
Hi everyone, Sandman here. Today's video is brought to you by a donation from Frank. And he didn't have a specific topic, so I'm going to cover the topic of Stardusk and MGTOW man caves. Most of us are already familiar with the man caves that most married men have, including the garage, the basement, the den, and often the tool shed. But very little is spoken about where men going their own way hang out. And it's obvious by now that most MGTOW space is virtual at this point. It only exists on the internet. And the typical blue pill man needs a man cave to go into to recharge his emotional batteries before once again interacting with his relationship partner. But the opposite can be said of men going their own way. Most of us live alone and use YouTube and other various MGTOW forums to socialize with other like-minded men. For married men, man caves are solitary places, but for men going their own way, the man cave is usually an online social male space. It's a place where we can talk about our own issues for a change, and we don't have to worry about being criticized for our feelings as well as questions. And we're living in an age of social media, and we'll probably be entering the age of virtual reality in the next few years. So the space that we currently exist in is in the process of constant evolution. Now I want to talk about the recent attack video against myself by Stardusk from a serious perspective. I think what's happening now is that MGTOW is maturing, and we're starting to see a split in the root philosophy. And I want to specifically bring up the issues that Stardusk, the Thinking-Ape, brought up with regards to MGTOW. He's made it clear that he doesn't like me. He probably thinks I'm bad for the long-term health of men going their own way, and the philosophy. But what he doesn't understand is that building a male space, or MGTOW man cave online space as I see it, is a place where men can feel welcome to discuss how they feel about the opposite sex, as well as anything else. Men have always seemed to define themselves relative to women, and it's part of our evolutionary biology. Stardusk also used to make videos about female nature.
Correction, Sandman. I still make videos about female nature. My subscribers who actually pay attention to what I'm doing and the videos I make know this. I talk about female nature often. What I do that differentiates myself from you is that I don't just engage in base speculation. Most recently, you made a video, for example, and you simply make the claim, you throw it out there, that one of the reasons why women in Toronto allegedly hate men is because of the weather. You just blurt it out as one of the reasons, and you just move on. And you move on to other cities where I would imagine the weather is not one of the reasons why the women there hate men. This is what I'm talking about. This is one of the fundamental problems with your approach. In a previous video, you made the assertion that the instability in the Middle East is because of women. Where's the evidence? I'm not averse to that claim per se. I'm not against the idea that it could be a possibility, but you tend to just blurt things out. You don't provide any evidence. You speculate, and I think that's dangerous. So, getting back to the point that people seem to miss because they were only hearing what they wanted to hear, when I said we shouldn't be simply bitching about women, I was talking about sensibly speaking about women. That doesn't mean not criticizing women. I criticize women all the time. It means talking about them in a fashion that has evidence with it, not just blurting out things, speculating about what may or may not be. Sometimes speculation is useful if you can provide some degree of probability for that speculation. But when you say, for example, one of the reasons why women allegedly hate men in Toronto is because of the weather, that doesn't help. So I still make videos about female nature. I make a lot of them. I guess you don't watch them.
But he's grown well past that point or phase in his life, and he feels that it's important for others to follow him in that direction, and also give up on their own biological imperatives?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's important that others go my way, despite what people claim. The MGTOW content producer that I admire most is a personal friend of mine, Barbarossa, and his lifestyle is very different from mine. As I said, he engages in sex, he does all the things that might fall into convention, and he's still what I personally regard as the best MGTOW content producer out there. I don't expect men to do anything. Once again, what I do hope, not an expectation so much as hope, is that when content is produced, people don't just speculate about things. They don't just blurt things out like you do and make it up on the spot, because that's not contributing to the understanding of women or male nature or male-female nature or male-female interaction. That's just speculating without any evidence whatsoever.
His thoughts are that MGTOW men have to evolve together, or not at all. But I believe that we can't risk isolating men that are brand new to MGTOW. We have to produce content that awakens men in their early to mid-20s to the red pill. And people like Louis Marco did more to grow the popularity of MGTOW in the last 4 months than Stardusk did in the last 2 years.
Ah, the subtle snipes, Mr. Sandman, Lord of Croatia. Well, I have no doubt that Louis Marco has a far more popular channel than mine. And if MGTOW is simply, and it seems to be your utter conviction, about growing numbers, then yeah, absolutely. If MGTOW is only about a number game, just having masses of men call themselves MGTOW, whatever that means, okay. The question that I'd like to interject is, does it matter how men get there? Does it matter if men are being fed accurate information, etc.? Now, you have the most popular, I'm using air quotes, MGTOW channel here. You're more popular than Barbarossa. Do you believe you produce superior content to Barbarossa? Do you believe your content helps men understand male and female nature than Barbarossa simply because you have a higher sub count? Now, you might be so bold as to claim, yes, I'd like to hear your reasons for that, but we both know that's not the case, and that reducing MGTOW simply to a number game where key concepts are poorly understood or not understood at all, and of course supplemented with the kinds of base speculation you engage in. Women hate men because cold weather, women cause wars in the Middle East, or what have you. This is the sort of thing that can lead to misinformation and, if you will, a false digestion of the red pill, which you claim to peddle.
Stardust spoke about female nature 2 or 3 years ago, and he expects everyone to just go back to his earlier videos, watch them, and then catch up to where he is today.
Once again, Lord of Yugoslavia, I still make videos about female nature, and my expectation is not that men merely catch up and watch the old videos. The difference between what I was doing back then and what you do today is that I did do my best to adduce evidence. I tried not to simply speculate, and when I did speculate, I offered probabilities. I didn't just blurt out things hoping that they would be correct or not caring that they would be correct. So, Lord of Yugoslavia, once again, there is a difference. But we'll continue to listen.
But he doesn't understand that it doesn't work that way on YouTube. He expects everyone to become as intelligent and as devoted as he is. But his efforts are being wasted and are similar to trying to teach a 5-year-old kid the theory of relativity. It's simply not going to happen. And I don't think his goal is to grow MGTOW and build it up. I think what he actually wants to do is create intellectual equals to stimulate him, to meet him on his own level, so to speak. I think he believes that if MGTOW is dumbed down for the masses, it's not going to happen, and he's not going to find his intellectual soulmate.
The projection is strong with this one. So, according to you, I'm looking for an intellectual soulmate in the form of a MGTOW man. This is absolutely fascinating. And the idea that I'm not interested in growing MGTOW is just baseless speculation, your usual material. And I'll grant that I don't agree with the methodology by which you seek to grow MGTOW, but this idea that I'm looking for an intellectual soulmate in the midst of men that call themselves MGTOW it's ludicrous. Even if it were true, how would I go about the selection process? It's a bit silly. But you make a lot of silly comments, Sandman. Now, as to your other comment, that the implication is very strong that men are somehow, according to you, it's implied here, too stupid to grasp more complicated approaches to MGTOW, I fundamentally disagree with you on that. I have a great deal of confidence that men are a lot more intelligent than you believe them to be and can understand the interaction between male and female nature, among other things, at a much more complex level than you give them credit for. You liken men here to 5-year-olds trying to grasp relativity theory. I liken men to adults who have adult minds who can actually understand concepts, even if they're a bit difficult, without them being dumbed down and turned into pudding. Anyway.
But what's wrong with including men in the discussion that aren't as advanced philosophically? Don't they have any other valuable insights to bring to the table?
Not an elite activity, an activity that furthers the mind. And once again, you imply that men are simply too stupid or not intellectually gifted enough to understand certain concepts. Why do you do that, Sandman? It must be because you believe it.
Or is men going their own way supposed to be some sort of elite activity? When I started doing video requests about a year ago, I had many people contact me and say that it would be a valuable service for them if I started talking about specific topics that were on their mind. And I felt that it was important to give others a platform to speak about what was on their minds, especially people that didn't have the technical expertise or drive to put together their own YouTube channels. I didn't think taking requests would work, initially, but then it picked up steam very quickly, and it shocked me. My channel quickly included the voices and thoughts, as well as insights from many MGTOWs that never before had a chance to speak publicly. And some purple pill men also piped in.
Yes, clearly everything you do, Sandman, is because of your munificence, your wholesome intentions towards your fellow men. This is why you do your daily dose of red pills. This is why you say things such as, and like and follow me on Twitter and Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Of course, all of these things, you do it for the benefit of men. It has nothing to do with your own benefit, your methodologies, your means. It's all to help men give themselves a voice that they never had before. Wow, you are a sterling exemplar of human and male virtue. Please continue.
Stardusk, I want you to listen to me very carefully. If Frederico wants me to talk about makeup, I'll talk about makeup. If someone else wants me to talk about my former mother-in-law, then I'll talk about her. I also remember you briefly taking paid requests to make videos about women's long hair, as well as why men find long hair on women so attractive, and more attractive than short hair. And then you have the nerve to criticize me for making a video about makeup. Am I the only one that thinks that's a little bit hypocritical?
No, Sandman, you have the nerve to delete the comment of the person who requested that video, where he explained that 1, he's a friend of mine, 2, he had a specific request, and 3, he was trying to help me out. You deleted the comment, which explained in detail why that video was made, and you deleted it from the video. You have the nerve. It's not hypocritical. You have the nerve to delete comments that are overly critical of your own views and your video content, and this was no different here. My friend had a specific request. He also wanted to help me out because he had never donated before, and the only reason I did that video is because he's a personal friend of mine, and he knows, and I'll say it here, that I didn't like making that video. I found it really, as I said, just not really worthy of making, but I did it as a favor to him. And that's the story behind that video. It was a personal favor to a friend, which he explained to you in the comment section, and you then deleted his comment. Incredible. Why did you delete his comment? Were you afraid people would see the truth? Was that the reason? Why did you delete Colonel Absconder's comment? Oh, sorry, you couldn't do that. You've blocked Colonel Absconder. So he had to use a separate account to leave the comment, whereupon you blocked that account and his comment as well. Good job, Sandman.
The video link to your woman's hair video is in the description below for everyone to check out for themselves, and so that they know that I'm not actually making it up.
Unfortunately, the video link to the comment made by my friend that you deleted is no longer there since you deleted the comment and blocked him again. So, as I said, that video was made as a personal, on a personal basis, as a response, simply, or rather, a request from a friend of mine who wanted to make a video. He knew I didn't want to make the video. He still knows that I made the video as a favor to him, and that was the reason. And why you deleted his comment, which explained in detail the reasons for the production of that video, is beyond me, but I suspect that you're afraid of too much criticism and that people might have seen the truth. Moving on.
I also remember Stardusk making a video a long time ago, and he ended up pulling it down. And in that video, he says that he was never going to ask people for money on YouTube.
Now, I actually thought you were better than this, Sandman. I knew, you fabricate things on your channel, you make things up, you pull them out of your ass. I didn't think you would simply make a lie up about me. This is an outright lie. You're lying about me, Sandman. Now, it is true that this is public knowledge. I made a video where I said I would never take donations and money. I much later on conceded my error, the error I committed, owned up to my mistake multiple times. People understood that. They accepted that. I admit the mistake now. One thing I never did was pull the video. I've never pulled a video ever. So you're just lying now. You're either lying or you're just engaging in your useless, baseless speculation that you do all the time in your videos. Women hate men because of the weather. Stardust pulled the video. No, I never pulled the video. I don't know where you're getting that from, but you would be well advised not to simply lie about people. It's not going to help your image very much. And I know you're very, terribly concerned about your image.
But then he backpedaled and started asking for donations. And this is in addition to taking paid request videos for a while, after criticizing me for doing the same thing. I also remember Stardusk criticizing Mundane Matt, Sargon of Akkad, and calling them the In-Betweeners, as well as criticizing Matthew Santoro, yet another YouTuber, because his face and eyes were too animated during his videos, and that people watching Matthew were not intelligent enough to see how he was influencing them with his facial expressions. I find it ironic that Stardust only seems to criticize people with higher view counts and more subscribers than he has. Why is this? Could this all have to do with envy?
The claims of envy. I'll get to that in a bit. Now, as far as the backpedaling is concerned, I've already addressed this. It was an error that I committed. I conceded that error, and all my subs know this, so no point in talking about that anymore. I've already talked about it many times. As far as the video request format is concerned, that was to achieve a very specific goal, whereupon achieving that goal, I retracted the video request format, and that happened in a period of less than a month, for a while. I love how the ambiguity of your language, Simon, for a while. So for about 3 weeks is a while. Okay. Contrast that with what you do, which is a perpetual campaign of video requests, and we can talk about the merits of that at a later date or later on in this video. But yes, it was a very, very specific thing. But more to the point, I want to address the charge of envy. And credit to you, Sandman, for not conflating envy with jealousy. Many people do it, including your acolytes. Well, it must be the case that I'm simply envious of you, and I'm envious of Matthew Santoro, and envious of Sargon of Akkad, and envious of Mundane Matt, and I'm envious of everyone who has a larger subbase than me. It has to be the case because it can't be any other reason. Now, if I simply were to assert that, that wouldn't be sufficient. Rather, I will provide evidence, because the fact is, Sandman, I began criticizing you when you had very few subs, maybe 2,000, maybe 3,000, maybe 4,000, not that many. I had more subs than you at the time. And I criticized you back then before you were the mass production MGTOW that you are now, right? This flies in the face of the logic of the claim that I'm somehow envious of you simply because of views and subs. No, I was criticizing you it was almost a year ago, back then, because I saw what you are back then already, and it is my firm belief that you are fraudulent, disingenuous. You're obviously a liar since you lied about me in this video I'm responding to, and that you have less than benign intentions, despite making yourself out to be some sort of benevolent businessman doing this all for the benefit and the weal of mankind. I smelt the horse shit back then, and I called it out. And this was long before you had a whole bunch of subs. So this idea of envy, I just refuted it. It's ludicrous because the proof is in the pudding. You can go back to that time when you had many, many, many fewer subs than you have now. And why was I criticizing you? It certainly wasn't because you had a lot of subs and you were getting a lot of views. I criticized you because you were full of shit back then, just as you are now. Now, as far as Mundane Matt and Sargon of Akkad are concerned, I don't really have anything against these guys. I was critical of them because I stated that already, because they're engaged in this perpetual campaign of anti-feminism. Anti-feminism is a waste of time, by and large, and this is not an uncommon view in the manosphere of the MGTOW community. I just think they're wasting their time, engaging in perpetual anti-feminist campaigns and what have you. If they like doing it, whatever. But that's my opinion, that's my view. It has nothing to do with them having more subs. Believed it or not, I've already stated the reasons. In fact, I made a video about it. The in-betweeners, yeah, because they waste their time engaging in all this anti-feminist nonsense. I think it's a waste of time. Now, as far as Matthew Santoro is concerned, I mean, this guy, okay, you can... The guy, why would I mean, I could criticize so many people with far more subs. I mean, the guy has masses of subs. The idea that I'm simply envious of Matthew Santoro, no. The guy is the very definition of fakery. You're almost the very definition of fakery, except you don't show your face and you don't have your eyeballs popping out of your head. You can look at older videos of his where he actually has a normal face, a normal projection, a normal expression, and you can see just how artificial it all is. Now, we can talk about the merits of the artificial or the authentic or the lack thereof, and I think that is something we should be talking about, but the idea that I'm somehow envious of what Matthew Santoro does, I mean, I'm envious of putting on a fraudulent face and hey everyone, check out my video, and doing things like that. People who know me, who've come to know my videos and my material and my personality, clearly this is a misnomer. No, he is the very definition of the disingenuous, of the inauthentic. He does what everyone else does, which is unfortunate. And one of the reasons why I dislike that, and why I talked about it in my video on The Price of the Lie, is because I do ultimately believe that the MGTOW community, and this is my conviction, should be about authenticity. It should be about, being yourself to the degree that one can even be oneself at all, instead of projecting some sort of illusion, or in the case of, say, Matthew Santoro, the expression of pure fakery, because that's the way you rope in subs. Now, you don't do this per se because you're anonymous, and I respect that because I'm anonymous as well. But you do it in other ways, obviously. You have a voice that is not yours, and everyone knows that's not the real way you speak. That is not Sandman. In fact, if that is you, then it's pretty scary. You do all of this because you have your project of commercialization. And in its own respect, it's the same kind of fakery that you'll have or encounter when you're dealing with a Matthew Santoro or a PewDiePie. It's PewDiePie, bro! I mean, how fake is that? And your contention, implied or otherwise, is one can only reach an audience if one becomes a fake. One can only reach an audience if one commercializes everything, with all the trappings and conventions of the commercial.
I think that Stardusk's version of an online MGTOW man cave would be similar to a remote island in the middle of the Pacific, or possibly a temple in the Himalayas, a place where only the most highly enlightened and most intelligent person can get to. Yes, we need more complex discussions about men going their own way, but we also need to discuss how to make it more inclusive, as well as welcome other people. We shouldn't make the barrier to understanding MGTOW the equivalent of getting a PhD. As far as I'm concerned, discussing female nature is the one universal theme that brings most men together in these modern-day man caves on YouTube. It's a good introduction to MGTOW, and also the most important way to save men from throwing their lives away. Again, YouTube is social media, and I think we need to use it more effectively. Women are currently monopolizing social media, And as men, we need to carve out our own male spaces online, and by all means necessary.
By all means necessary, and this is a point that we disagree upon, obviously. I don't think we need to carve out a space online by all means necessary. Now, a while back in the comment section, you corrected me when I called you a propagandist. You said that they no longer call it this, they call it public relations. You didn't deny the fact of the things that you engage in and do. You simply tried to switch the terminology. Now, we could overnight, by way of example, decide to call murder unpleasantness. Tomorrow, everyone in the English-speaking world decides to call murder unpleasantness. That would not change anything about the fact of the state of unpleasantness. That is, after an unpleasantness, you would have a dead body and presumably a criminal investigation. And the same can be applied to the alleged difference between public relations and propaganda. Now, just because we are in the early throes of the 21st century does not mean that whether it's called public relations or propaganda, the nature of what is being put forth within a propagandistic, or for that matter, public relations model has changed. Now, in the past, you've expressed admiration. You've gone on record for expressing admiration for Joseph Goebbels, who was the primary propagandist for the Nazi Party. And I'm not going to assume that you agree with what the Nazis did. I'm not one of those people, so you can rest assured about that. In fact, I have no reason to believe that you agreed with the Nazi policies. But in expressing admiration for Joseph Goebbels, on some level, you must at least admire his methodology. And what was his methodology? I'm not talking about the means, what he was trying to do. He was trying to do what? He was trying to manipulate people. And I suppose by any means necessary implies that you believe that it is necessary to use tools to get the job done no matter what. That is to say, hey, if we need to use the techniques of a Joseph Goebbels to get the MGTOW message across, everything else be damned, we need to do it. Those are the stakes. I'm trying to give you the most benign interpretation here, because I think it might be a bit more cynical than that. But I simply don't agree with you. And then we do actually have a fundamental disagreement in tactics, if that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think that it is a good idea to use any means necessary to perpetuate a message, especially when the message is blunted and put across in a very poor manner, such as the speculation you engage in, and then you combine that with techniques of public relations or propaganda, take your pick of how you actually want to term that, and you end up with a big mess. Any means necessary. I think this is something key that we disagree on, and we will forever disagree on. Any means necessary. Get the job done. That is not my approach, and in this regard, we can simply view this as a difference in tactics, but I think it's a little bit deeper than that. Let's continue to listen what you have to say on this.
I've also been trying to add yet another male online space by finding time to start another MGTOW channel called the MGTOW Mailbag. And that channel would highlight some of the best messages and comments left on my channel. Men going their own way need to get their voices heard, instead of YouTube simply being a place for channel owners to get their narcissistic supply. And that's one of the greatest downfalls for YouTube content producers, especially the ones that make it about themselves instead of about their audience. I remember MGTOWforums.com being a great place until it was shut down by its creator, Nacho. Apparently he got sick and tired of all the new MGTOWs that didn't know the ropes, as well as the attitude coming from the new guys. And he got sick and tired of the same issues being rehashed over and over again. I think there's an online battle going on in the manosphere, because people are going crazy and trying to battle each other out in order to define and take over as much male space as possible from each other. But please let me remind everyone here that we're here for the audience, the listeners and the viewers. We are here to help navigate the world around them, and we shouldn't be waging battles against each other without any real reasons. I think it's awesome that some content producers like Stardusk cater to level 3 and level 4 MGTOWs, while others cater to level 1 and level 2 MGTOWs like myself. Why create content for only veterans? Why not include other people as well?
Very clever, Sandman. Couple of things here. Well, one is the attribution of narcissism. Okay, of course, I am the narcissist, but you, once again, are the benevolent content producer, producing content solely for the benefit of the subscribers and growing the MGTOW community. You are here to help men, whereas I am simply engaged in narcissistic self admiration. That is the implication, isn't it, Sandman? I mean, do you think anyone actually, well, apparently some people do. Do you think anyone who is perceptive falls for that claim? The idea that you're here solely to benefit men, that I am personally engaged in narcissism, and more to the point, the idea that a channel is only there for the audience. It is largely dependent on the audience, but a channel also has an author. A channel also has a personality behind it. Well, not yours, since you've chosen to disintegrate any personality. And I guess that's the problem, right? I make videos, generally speaking, of the sort I would like to make. Of course, my channels depend on my audience and my subscribers, and I see a lot of interesting, intelligent comments from guys like John Halt or Multishadow 1979, etc., in the comment section. I still make the videos I want to make. And the difference between you and me in this regard is quite simple. Unlike you, and you are in this regard a bootlicking, soulless sycophant, I make videos and have the balls to make videos where I get a lot of fucking hate. I didn't retract my Charlie Hebdo video, and I stand by what I said, and people didn't like it. I lost subs, and I still stand by it. That's because I'm not there to kiss my fucking subscribers' ass. I allow them to look at my video, try their best to evaluate the content, whether they like it or not, whether they disagree with it or not, etc. I'm there to provide content to them, no doubt, and it's up to them to evaluate on their own terms. I'm not there to suck up to them, to kiss their ass, to engage in endless sycophancy of your sort. Yes, that is an approach to a channel, but that's also why your channel is completely soulless and lacks any personality whatsoever. And I guess we could just, once again, just say this is a difference in tactics. This is a difference in the way you approach MGTOW. Whatever, okay. But the difference as well is that people at the end of the day are going to respect me a lot more for simply stating my views and my take, even if they disagree with me, even if they criticize me, even if they unsub me. I stood by my take on things. I didn't just put out shit to kiss their fucking ass, like you do.
This isn't the cool club where only those enlightened enough can enter. All the infighting in the manosphere just shows that men are mostly out for themselves and their own individual power.
And once again, Sandman attempts to distinguish himself from these ruffians who are all out for themselves and they're all in individual power. No, Sandman, you're not interested in profiteering and making a profit and capitalizing on a new business niche. Of course not. No, you're there to benefit men. You are the munificent one. You are the chosen one. More on that later.
And that's why it's very difficult for men to collaborate on projects, because we often have the tendency to make it about personal honor instead of sharing the limelight. And most of us don't know how to serve others. It's increasingly clear to me, as well as to many others, that people like Stardusk appear to have outgrown MGTOW. And I don't think that's the case. I just think Stardusk wants to take things in his own direction, and wants everyone else to follow him. But I think most men going their own way will never fully get over women. And I think that's mostly because of biological imperatives. There's also a cheesy line from the first Matrix film where the character Mouse tells Neo, "To deny our impulses is to deny what makes us human." And trying to deny talking about women is not going to happen for most guys, no matter how much wishful thinking more enlightened MGTOWs want to get in this particular case. I think that for the first time in history, men now have the opportunity to talk about women online and what they do to manipulate us. And men can also talk about female nature without fear. We are privileged to be allowed to do this. And Stardusk or anyone else shouldn't be trying to take that right away from us. We just got this space barely 6 or 7 years ago, and now he wants us to abandon talking about women. That's like going from the steam engine to the airplane, while most of the population is still riding around on horses.
Once again, an outright lie or a rank misinterpretation of what I said. It is fascinating, the ambiguity of human language. Clearly, I know what you're doing here. I don't think you're lying. You're simply manipulating things. I know you're not a dumb guy, Sandman. You're quite good. Like I said, you are a master manipulator. You are exceedingly good in all this media commercialized bullshit that has overtaken our world. You're very good at that. So I know you know that I did not say we shouldn't talk about women. You're simply repeating the things that your acolytes have said so as to reinforce their already biased views. What I said was we shouldn't bitch about women, and we should talk about these things constructively and sensibly. And what do I mean by that? I mean by the same things I said before. What would I mean by that? I said we need to adduce evidence. We need to support our arguments. We need to create arguments that make sense. We need to explain things on a level that, yes, is understandable, but is also backed up by, at the very least, some amount of evidence rather than just blurting things out as you are inclined to do. I never said we should not talk about women. It is ludicrous. And frankly speaking, you cannot find a spot, a single section of that video where it's claimed that I say that, where I make that statement. I've watched several video responses to that and responding to yours, of course, but all of these people are either lying or they're deliberately misinterpreting what I said. There is a difference between bitching about women and throwing salt in the wounds by perpetuating this obsession with pussy that men tend to have, and talking about women sensibly, the motivations for the male's behavior, the motivation for the female's behavior, etc., etc. Very, very different things, apples and oranges. And yet, I'm supposedly have gone on record for saying we shouldn't talk about women. No, I said we shouldn't bitch about women, which is akin to what you do, whether you use a nasally voice or not, is irrelevant, because the point is simple. We do not want to keep men lockstep in this perpetual feed of anger, where they see the imagery of the women, they get worked up, they get angry. Yes, that is a necessary process, but the idea, the thing that you imply is that that's necessary. Now, let me tell you something. When I first started watching Barbarossa's videos, I mean, I was reasonably bit. I was probably not as angry as many of these men, but I was a fair bit angry. And look at the kind of content Barbarossa produced. I mean, he was my primary exposure. I'll never forget that one video that really set me on the path, where he talks about commensurate recompense, and that video. I mean, there were no images of sexy women. There was no commercialized crap. It was a video that spoke to the hearts and minds of men on a basic level that everyone could understand, right? But was also explanatory. This is not something that you have on offer. The idea that I don't want to talk about women is ludicrous, and everyone who perpetuates it is either a liar or blind or simply can't understand what I'm saying. I don't know which interpretation is the most charitable. I'll take your pick. But there is a way to do things. There is a methodology, and simply making things up, blurting them out, and then constantly pouring salt into a recurrent wound. Because after all, if we grant that there's some element or some aspect of the male that will be perpetually drawn to this stuff, what we need, in fact, is less of it. We don't need to rope men in via images of women. We don't need to continually pour salt into the wounds, because they will never recover that way. I guarantee it. If you don't agree with me, fine. But the fact is that I believe that eventually part of the path of MGTOW is getting over it. Now, you clearly have never gotten over it, and I guess the people who watch your videos haven't gotten over it. But the question here is not whether or not they have gotten over it at this juncture in time, but rather, should they? And what is the best means for them to get over it? And I don't think it is the means of doing what you're doing, which is just commercialized crap. Yes, I am opposed to you, and It is not for reasons of envy. As I said, I criticized you long before you had a lot of subs. The reasons are pretty simple. The commercialization, I believe, is not necessary. We do not need to spread MGTOW at all costs, by any means possible. And you clearly believe that. You stated that. You've stated an admiration for Joseph Goebbels, and like I said, I firmly believe that you do not believe in the things that he was trying to represent, but he was a man who believed using certain means and getting a message across. And frankly speaking, I just cannot get on board with that at all. The kinds of techniques you employ, the commercialization, the manipulation, the uses of image, and it's so obvious to anyone who. It's not that I'm ignorant of these techniques, Sandman. I know how to use them I could use them if I wanted to. I choose not to because I think it's better to present an authentic image to men and allow them to assess material based on standing on its own rather than a bunch of pretty images that rope people in with very little substance behind it. Let's continue listening to what you have to say, Lord of Yugoslavia.
Someone please tell me how any of this makes any real sense. Stardusk even temporarily made his channel one where you could actually bring up your topics and pay for him to cover them. And in the end, it seemed to piss him off that people sent him money and asked him to create content that he felt was actually beneath him.
Once again, baseless speculation on your part. I mean, I guess you're just guessing. I had some sort of agenda there, and I was doing people a favor. No, I had a goal that I wanted to reach. I did the video. I did that request format. I was upfront about it. Everyone knew that I didn't enjoy that format, that I don't enjoy that format. It's not something that I like doing. And I still try to do a good job of it. And the difference there, once again, somebody requested a video about Stefan Milieu, and I was willing to take him on and receive a lot of slack for it because I stick to my guns, even in a request format. I'm willing, something you would never be willing to do because you're too concerned about your fucking public image and your presentation as this benign businessman. No. Someone asked me, please make a video about Stefan Milieu. He gave me a decent amount of money. I did it. Did I actually want to make that video? Probably not, but I was willing to make it. I was willing to put my neck out on the line. I received a lot of slack for it, and that's because I am my own person. I'm not trying to sell a fucking front to people, unlike some people.
And if you listen to his viewer request videos, he acts like he's actually doing people that send him money a favor, instead of respecting that many men are at different levels of development. Sometimes it can take generations for an idea to reach critical mass.
It's interesting that you say that because there are so few requested videos, actually, and it took place within the span of maybe 3 weeks. You have the Stefan Milieu one, which I've just talked about, the hair one, which was a personal request made by a friend, which I explained, and the rest, what I talked about, what Norse ruins, I'm trying to remember, it's been such a long time. There weren't even topics related to MGTOW. So don't know what you're going on there. Once again, just making stuff up, irrelevant. Continue listening.
My goal now is to grow my online MGTOW man cave and make it as big as possible. That's my goal, and if you think that's too basic, then too bad for you. There are tons of other people out there that do deeper content, but that's not me. You can either think like I do where I produce content with the motto, less is more. But if you think that less is a bore, then you've probably outgrown what I have to say, and that's fine as well. Anyways, and the only way to speed up the process is to make that idea accessible to everyone. YouTubers like Razorblade Candy say that once upon a time I used to produce MGTOW videos that had deeper content and deeper meaning. And I have to agree with him that when I first started producing videos, they were far more complex and well thought out than right now. And I was full of passion because I had just recently swallowed the red pill. But I quickly learned that almost everything in the MGTOW community had already been said. So I realized that if I was actually going to repeat myself over and over again, I would make it count. I thought about what inspired me to go my own way in the first place. And I'd have to say that 60 to 70% of my decision is based on the early Stardusk videos.
I see what you're doing there, Sandman. I see what you're doing there. 60 to 70% of your motivation was based on my videos. And then, what was that video eons ago? You make so many, you lose count. where you put my video as one of the top MGTOW videos. You know, it's funny. I'm not. You think I would actually fall for this kind of faux praise, this idea that in one instance you're trying to paint yourself as a good guy, so you're sort of admire, appreciate my work. You don't mean any harm. So of course you say, oh, 60 to 70% of my inspiration to go my own way came from Stardust videos. Okay. But the thing is, I'm not buying it. I know why you're inserting that. I know how you're going about it. And the same reason back in that video where I don't even necessarily agree with you that that's the best MGTOW video out there. It's just, anyway, let's continue listening.
My goal now is to grow my online MGTOW man cave and make it as big as possible. That's my goal, and if you think that's too basic, then too bad for you. There are tons of other people out there that do deeper content, but that's not me. You can either think like I do, where I produce content with the motto, less is more. But if you think that less is a bore, then you've probably outgrown what I have to say, and that's fine as well. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again to Frank for his donation. Also follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.
You've perfected the art of infomercial rather well, Sandman. They're getting longer and longer. You had your sloganeering, "Thank you for taking your daily dose of red pills," and now you've added to the mix, "And don't forget to like and follow me on Facebook and Twitter to get tomorrow's video today." I mean, straight out of an infomercial. You really have that down pat, man. Well done. And if you have any other slogans, please share them, because I find they're fantastic. You do a good job of that. So you finish what you have to say, and I'm about to finish what I have to say as well. I think I've demonstrated a couple of things. Well, one, you lied about me, or you fabricated, I don't know which one. I give you a benign interpretation. You were confused and didn't realize I hadn't pulled the video, whatever. But there's a possibility that you lied as well, especially given the fact that you deleted my friend's comment, which really was just a comment of criticism. You couldn't deal with it, whatever. But I think I've driven home the point that my opposition to you has nothing to do with envy. It has everything to do with your means. We disagree, yeah. If we have a fundamental disagreement, is that you believe in getting some sort of MGTOW message, whatever that is, out by any means possible, and I don't. I think to MGTOW belong concepts of integrity and authenticity and, yeah, trying to be yourself to some degree. However small or big my channel is, it is my channel. I don't simply blow smoke up my fucking subs' ass and kiss their fucking ass like you do. And I also don't try to intentionally manipulate them using imagery, or I don't know how your voice ends up manipulating people, but apparently it does with the nasal shit. I don't do any of that. And we have a fundamental disagreement. Do I think you are harmful? Yes. You perpetuate the salt in the wound. You keep men in a stage of suffering perpetually, and you don't want them to move past it. Now, you can protest it all you want. That is my viewpoint. That is my view of your material. And hopefully this is the last exchange we'll ever have. Unfortunately, you lied about me, so I had to make this video. You also engage in some pretty shifty stuff concerning some comments. And yeah, that's why I made this video to begin with. So I will leave it off there, and I'm moving on to my next video, which is going to be related to not this one, but the one prior to it, doing my own thing. And yeah, Sandman, go on, keep on commercializing, manipulating, and infomercializing everything. Do it to your heart's content. But just remember, if I ever launch a criticism again, I've already explained why I'm criticizing. I've offered evidence. And yeah, I don't need to be big or small to criticize you. Everyone has a right to criticize. People do it on my channel all the time. I don't delete their comments, though. Anyway, thanks for watching, and thank you for taking your daily dose of red pills. And don't forget to like and follow me on Twitter to get tomorrow's video today. That sounds rather cool, doesn't it? Anyway, take care.